finding out that in a 2-year span, 40 people that I knew, or 30 people that I knew passed away from sarcoidosis.
Oh my God.
In 2-year span. And in that 2-year span, 18 of them committed. It's a very painful disease, unfortunately. And I could tell you, I'm very open about it. In 2015, 2015, I actually put myself in a 72-hour watch, which is it's going into the hospital and put yourself on a watch so you don't commit suicide. I actually had it all planned out. And
Oh my God.
yeah, so it's just hard when sarcoidosis doesn't have a cause, never mind a cure. So we're so far behind the 8 ball. And then when you're dealing with all this pain, and then they asked me to do a PET scan, and like I said, found out we ended up having it in 75% of my body. And they were like, you're not going to be that remission case. It's going to be too hard for us to control it now because it's already, and once it's like cancer. Once it gets into the lymph nodes, you really have to worry. So it's the same thing with sarcoidosis. It gets into the lymph nodes, it travels to the rest of the body, and that's the biggest problem with. That's the thing. If you look at a sarcoidosis patient from the outside, like if you look at me now, I look fine. Nobody would know that.
Yeah.
I do use a cane. Because of the arthritis, and I also have Parkinson's as well. I got diagnosed with Parkinson's in 2016. So I do use a cane, but other than that, you would not see, it's an invisible disease, so you don't see it but if you saw, or if you knew how, every day I live on a 1 to 10 pain scale, every day my normal is 6 to 7 on the pain scale. I'm a realist. In my lifetime, is there going to be a cure for sarcoidosis? Probably not. But the way I look at it, in my lifetime, are we better off than when I first started with sarcoidosis to now? Yes, definitely. There's a lot more clinical trials going on. There's a lot more awareness. Why not have it in New York where where everything was going on at 9/11, and making sure that they knew that they can contact me and I'll help them any way I can. And if I can't, I'll try to find them help. That's the best way I can do.
I mean, it's kind of the definition of an advocate right there. A good one.
Like I said, advocating is a thankless job. If nothing, even though you could be doing 100 different things, but the patient still is like, "Where's my cure?" unless you find that cure, you really are you're in a thankless job.
Hello, welcome to my podcast, To My Fun Joe Stooge. I'm Joe Stooge, and I'll be giving a mic to Frank. Frank has one of the most severe cases of sarcoidosis. You couldn't tell by hearing his accolades. In 2019, Frank started a national sarcoidosis online support group for all patients and caregivers. He said in a different podcast, and I quote, "It's easier to tell you where I don't have it than where I do." He is also an author with 2 books. A lot more as we dive into the conversation, so let's start with one of your favorite songs. It's called It's Okay. What does the song mean to you?
Well, my message has always been of positivity. Just because, I mean, you can tell from my second book, it just says, I have sarcoidosis, it doesn't have me. Yes, it does change my life, but I'm not going to let it run my life totally. There are certain things I can't do and can do. But the reason why it's okay is I went through a really bad period of mental health aspects of the disease as well, and I always want to make sure that people realize that it's okay to not be having a bad day, and it's okay to have a good day. Don't feel bad that you're having a good day and somebody else isn't, or if you're having a bad day, it's okay, and it's okay to ask for help as well.
Dealing with a lot of guests, yeah, I can see the guilt that comes with a chronic illness. So I see on social media, especially like some advocates do all the hardships, and if you're following others, they're doing the hardships, and you kind of have a guilt of what if you're having a good day? Do you show off your good day? Because then everyone else, deep down, most people are probably happy for you, but deep down you feel this guilt of maybe I shouldn't feel well, because everyone else is feeling bad. I don't want others to feel bad.
Yeah.
So it's a very conflicting situation to be in.
Yeah, mental health. I deal with a lot of mental health issues as well in my advocacy, and just finding out how rough it's been for I mean, I started out with my own working with my own disease, sarcoidosis, but then I ended up finding out that in a 2 year span, 40 people that I knew, or 30 people that I knew, passed away from
Oh
sarcoidosis
my God.
in 2 year span, and in that 2 year span, 18 of them committed suicide. Um,
Holy shit.
yeah, it's a very painful disease, unfortunately, and I could tell you, I'm very open about it. In 2015, yeah, 2015, I actually put myself in a 72-hour watch, which is it's going into the hospital and put yourself on a watch so you don't commit suicide. I actually had it all planned out, and
Oh my God.
yeah, so it's just hard when sarcoidosis doesn't have a cause, never mind a cure. So we're so far behind the eight ball. And then when you're dealing with all this pain, and then you're also dealing with the fact that there are no medicines. The major medicine for us is prednisone, which causes so many other side effects that it's almost worse than actually, the disease. And so it could get very lonely. So I was able to get out of it. I mean, I've had a counselor for over 12 years now, and she's the one who saved my life, because what happened is I actually ended up calling her just before I was actually going to do it. I had it all planned out, ready to commit suicide, but then I ended up calling her, and she's like, she was the first thing she said to me is, "You don't want to commit suicide." I said, "Why? Why do you say that?" She goes, "You wouldn't have called me." And that put everything into perspective for me. I really didn't want to do it. I just wanted to get rid of the pain and and all the anguish that comes with it, the stress. So I always tell everybody, it's okay to ask for help. A lot of people say men, the whole men are strong. They're not supposed to go speak to a counselor or. But I always say, you know what, you're strong if you ask for help, and you need help. So I always put it that way, instead of saying you're strong, not asking for help. So that's my big push for mental health.
Yeah, yeah, for people that don't know, just to update the audience, sarcoidosis is an inflammatory disease that affects one or more organs, but most commonly affects the lungs and lymph glands. As a result of the inflammation, abnormal lumps or nodules form in one or more organs of the body. These granulomas may change the normal structure and possibly the function of the affected organ.
Yeah.
So let's just lay the foundation to your stories. I have here you were diagnosed with leukemia at 5 years old,
Yes.
dealing with loneliness as you didn't attend school till 4th grade. Somehow between then and now you ran a marathon at a pace of 2:30, which is super impressive. In 2009 you were misdiagnosed with lung cancer. 6 years later you were diagnosed with sarcoidosis, and we were talking about before that in 2015 you wanted to commit suicide and didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 2018 your doctor told your illness that it's fatal. So have you had the chance to breathe lately?
Um, well, one of the main reasons why I was in 2018 that I wasn't getting enough oxygen to my brain, so that's the main reason why they said I was terminal. The easiest way to describe sarcoidosis, I know, like you put out the medical definition of it, is easy. I have overactive white blood cells. They go to, when normal people, their white blood cells go to fight off colds and anything, ours goes there, and instead of fighting it off, they clump up together and form granulomas or masses, whatever for easier terms. And by the time I was diagnosed, I already had it in 75% of my body. The best way I could go back to, the easiest way I could describe it is, in 2004, I was living in Florida. I ran 5 to 10 miles a day. Every morning I would do that, and that was just my every morning plan. I went out to go run one day, and I didn't make a quarter of a mile. It was like, I felt like somebody just like pushed against my chest and made me stop breathing. I was like so out of breath, I couldn't believe it. at the time, I called my girlfriend who I was with at the time, and she ended up taking me to the hospital. And that's when I got, in Florida, I got misdiagnosed with lung cancer. They did a biopsy and said I had lung cancer. I went through 4 years of chemo and radiation, and then I moved back. I'm originally from New York, Long Island, New York, and I moved back up to Long Island. And 2011, I started to have problems because I also have IBS, and I started to have problems with my stomach. So I went to the hospital, and while they were doing an X-ray, they were like, "Do you know that you have you have masses in your lungs?" So of course I'm thinking, here we go again. I have lung cancer again. It came back because I was supposed to be in remission. So they did the biopsy and they were like, you don't have lung cancer, you have sarcoidosis, which is a rare disease, which kind of my wife actually knew about the disease because her brother has it. I mean, what's the odds of that with a rare disease, two in one,
Wow.
in your family? Yeah, yeah. So he had it, and he got it diagnosed early enough, and he's been in a remission ever since in the 90s. I'm thinking, all right, I'll take prednisone and I'll be fine. But I went to the specialist, Manhattan, Mount Sinai Hospital, and they told me that I never had lung cancer. They actually brought all the information from Florida. They got all the information sent up to them, and I actually had sarcoidosis from 7 years before that. And so they were saying to me, you already have it in a lot of your body. They asked me to do a PET scan, and like I said, found out we ended up having it in 75% of my body. And they were like, you're not going to be that remission case. It's going to be too hard for us to control it now because it's already, and once it's like cancer. Once it gets into the lymph nodes, you really have to worry. So it's the same thing with sarcoidosis. It gets into the lymph nodes, it travels to the rest of the body. And that's the biggest problem with sarcoidosis. And then, like I said, there aren't any cures for it. There's Band-Aids and medication, like I have it I have sarcoidosis arthritis. So I go see a rheumatoid doctor, and then they give me rheumatoid medicines just to help with the pain. But then, I'm one of those lucky cases where about 6 months after I take a medicine, I grow a tolerance to the medicine. So we have to try another medicine.
Of course.
And it's a lot of fun. So in 2018, I basically went through every medicine that was known. And then I also had trouble with getting oxygen to my brain because I ended up I have sarcoidosis in my brains, and I have lesions, and I have granulomas in my brain, and the granulomas were blocking the veins and the with arteries and stuff where the air was supposed to be coming, and the blood was not getting to. I was down to like 60-something% in my brain, oxygen in my brain. I was lucky enough.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I was lucky. My specialist found a doctor because at that point I was really run down. At that time I had it in every major organ of my body, and the problem with having sarcoidosis is like everybody's like, oh, you could just have a surgery and clear it up. Like they were gonna put, like normal people would put a stent in. If I go in for a surgery, I am like in really, really big danger because my white blood cells don't fight off any foreign objects that come into my system. And so when you're having a surgery, you're really putting yourself in a lot of danger. And I couldn't, at that time I was too weak to actually have a surgery to do that. So they ended up finding a doctor, a Johns Hopkins doctor, who ended up helping me. It's a short-term relief, but it's been, I can't say it's that short-term because it's 4 years later. But it'll probably grow back. Basically, what they did is scraped the granulomas out of the arteries and to make sure that the oxygen gets to my brain now. And so far, it's helped with that and the medicine. My oxygen level in my brain is back up to not normal, but like in the high 80s now to 90, almost 90%. So it's a lot better than it used to be. So, I mean, I can't complain. I'm still here.
No, so we were talking about how you were misdiagnosed with lung cancer. So did that misdiagnosed make your sarcoidosis worse now because you weren't able to really fight it the proper way?
Yeah, what happened is the chemo helped because, the granulomas are basically masses. So chemo, the whole idea of chemo is to, stop the masses from growing, and chemo kills the white blood cell count. My white blood cell count is super high compared to everybody else's. A normal high is 5,000. Mine is at can be as far up as 30,000. Um, and the reason is because
Whoa, okay.
the reason that being is that what happens, when it's going to fight something off and it clumps up together, it's my body is still detecting the original problem of what the white blood cell was going. So they send more white blood cells down to it, and it rejuvenates. I make more white blood cells. So by the time I have a high amount of white blood cells. So it did help with knocking the white blood cell count down, which helps me from fighting other diseases. But then the radiation really, really hurt me. I was down to 98 pounds. I was sick all the time. And so the radiation made my body weak. So by the time I did get diagnosed, if I probably got diagnosed back then, I probably would have been in remission at this point. But unfortunately, it didn't happen. A lot of people always say, oh, why didn't you sue them, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, my doctor told me this thing. He's like, here's the deal. You have it in 75% of your body. You're gonna have to spend a lot of energy on fighting this disease. Do you want to spend a lot of energy and stress on going to court and going to? He's like, I'm not sticking up for the doctors. Believe me, what they did was wrong. He goes, but you got to think of what's best for you. Are you gonna, do you want to fight this disease or do you want to fight the courts? He's like, your body's not going to be able to handle both. So you have to decide what you wanted to do. And I decided that, you know what, I leave it in the past. What do I need to do now? And that's always been my goal, is finding out what do I need to do and then go and fight it that way. So that was my biggest worry at the time. And like I said, by that time, I ended up getting it in my heart, which is a very, very scary situation. The heart is always, a lot of people, a lot of sports athletes, and like Bernie Mac. Bernie Mac also had sarcoidosis. He ended up getting pneumonia.
Really? Okay.
He ended up getting pneumonia, and because he had sarcoidosis, he couldn't fight the pneumonia off, and that's how he passed away. He had sarcoidosis for probably about 10 years before that, and he was on oxygen and everything. But then there's also like Michael Clark Duncan from the Green Mile. He died of what they said was a heart attack, but it was a heart attack due to the sarcoidosis. He ended up having sarcoidosis in his heart, and he didn't know he had it, and he ended up dying. And that's why they say having sarcoidosis in the heart is the worst part, because if you don't know you have it there, a lot of times, 90% of the people don't know until it's too late. So I'm lucky that I already knew I had sarcoidosis, so by the time it got to my heart, we already knew it was going to happen. So that helped out a lot. Bill Russell, who just passed away recently, a basketball player, he had it, and Reggie White, another football player, he had it as well. And you never. That's the thing. If you look at a sarcoidosis patient from the outside, like if you look at me now, I look fine. Nobody would know that.
Yeah.
I do use a cane because of the arthritis, and I also have Parkinson's as well. I got diagnosed with Parkinson's in 2016, so I do use a cane. But other than that, you would not see, it's an invisible disease, so you don't see it until, but if you saw, or if you knew how, every day I live on a 1 to 10 pain scale, every day my normal is 6 to 7 on the pain scale. So, yeah, I always kid around, there's this old song called Tears of a Clown. You're always smiling, but inside you're like, you're crying, and that's the way I always relate this, is that there's days I sit there and cry. I never know how I'm going to be each day. And it's very annoying. And I'm on disability now. I had to, in 2013, 2014, I filed for disability. And then, so it has changed my life a lot. But it pushed me in a direction that I never if you would have asked me 20 years ago, oh, you're going to be an advocate for, or you're going to go speak to government officials about anything, I would have laughed at you. But yeah, it gave me a direction that I never knew of, but it actually, I love talking to government officials. I love raising awareness. I love helping patients, and I want, I'm a realist. In my lifetime, is there going to be a cure for sarcoidosis? Probably not. But the way I look at it, in my lifetime, are we better off than when I first started with sarcoidosis to now? Yes, definitely. There's a lot more clinical trials going on. There's a lot more awareness. Government officials actually spoke about, like Senator Schumer, when he was introducing Hillary Clinton here in Harlem, he actually spoke about sarcoidosis for 5 minutes without telling anybody. And it's funny, I got the call that morning from the health aide because I was really close. Their health aide called me a week before I went to go visit him and said, "You coming representing sarcoidosis?" I'm like, "Yes." She goes, "My mom got diagnosed with sarcoidosis just this week." So I ended up getting, yeah, what's the odds of that? And I ended up getting her a doctor, and she's in remission, which is great. It's great to see.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, so I had an in. But yet, so Senator Schumer, heard that I helped his health aide, and he got involved very much. And then, so it's been a whirlwind. Some good, some bad. I still don't know how to. It's funny. I'm doing this 12 years now, and I still don't know when to say no. I still have trouble a lot of times saying no. I'm getting a little bit better, but it's still not the easiest thing. But I'm learning. Actually, this year I took a little bit more, or ended last year into this year, I took a little bit more steps back because of my health. But I'm still doing a lot of things with the rare disease community and the mental health community as well, and sarcoidosis. But from the behind the scenes.
Yeah, I have here that you did a billboard in Times Square.
Yes.
On multiple occasions too.
Yeah, that was so much. Yeah, we did it twice. First one was for a Rare Disease Day, and they just wanted to put my organization up there, and it was going to be every 15 minutes from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. And I'm like, nobody wants us to see an organization's name up there. They won't understand what it is about. So what I asked them to do is I actually put people who have sarcoidosis faces up there. Every 15 minutes, a new face went up. And they got to say in 2 or 3 sentences what sarcoidosis meant to them. And this way, first, it was so the patients got heard. That was the first thing why I did it. And the second thing is, anybody in New York who didn't know many people have sarcoidosis will call me to let me, hey, I have sarcoidosis too, and they did. Sarcoidosis is one of the top diseases for 9/11 first responders and survivors. So why not have it in New York where where everything was going on at 9/11, and making sure that they knew that they can contact me, and I will, I'll help them any way I can. And if I can't, I'll try to find them help. That's the best way I can do.
I mean, it's kind of the definition of an advocate right there. A good one.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, it's like I always say, this disease has been around since the 1800s. The first case was like 1860s, and when I first started, we weren't any better than we were in the 1800s on research. My thing was, if you're going to bang your head against a wall 300 times and expect a different result, it's not going to happen. So I always think outside of the box. What can I do different that we haven't done to raise awareness, to get people involved, to get pharmaceuticals involved, to get, because we need everybody. We need the patients, we need the pharmaceutical companies, we need the government, we need the advocates. So that was my thing, is always thinking outside of the box of, like the billboard. Nobody did that before. So I was like, hey, let's try it, see what happens. And it went over really well, and the patients loved it. As a matter of fact, a lot of the patients that were on it still put it up the because I sent each one of them. It was nice. The billboard company actually sent each a clip of each one of them to me separate. There was 30 people, and they sent me a clip of all 30 people, so I was able to send it to people, because a lot of the people that were from different parts of the world. I had somebody from Australia. I had people, from all over the place, and so I was able to send it to them so they could actually see themselves that it would actually, you make a difference.
Great, kind of like when you advocate, you don't really like know what you're. I mean, you know what you're doing, but you don't really know the impact you're doing unless someone like explains it to you. But at the same time, not everyone's gonna do that. You don't like people are viewing your stories and they're just viewing it, but they're not like directly interacting with you. So we both would truly never know how much of an impact we have until I get after our death when people start posting stuff about us. But otherwise, we're just kind of always like putting energy out there, and then once in a while we'll get like a thank you or like, hey, you helped me. But most of the time it's just more you're just putting energy out there, and hopefully you're making a difference.
Yeah, I mean, our community is a good community, and they really support each other, and it's great in that respect. But like you said, advocating is a thankless job. If nothing, even though you could be doing 100 different things, but the patient still is like, where's my cure? unless you find that cure, you really are you're in a thankless job. I know, like I said, as long as I know that we're moving forward with the disease, then I'm okay. I don't advocate for myself per se. I advocate for the 200,000 people who have sarcoidosis. That's the way I look at it in the United States. We're right on that cusp of getting out of that rare disease aspect, but I really, I think about what's best for them. Am I right all the time? No. Do I do some things that are probably not right? Yeah. But the way I look at it, if I fail, at least I tried. Only, if you don't fail by trying, you fail by not trying, is the way I always look at it. So I tried the whole, like I said, I think out of the box, some things work, some things don't work. But at least I'm trying, and at least, somebody might remember something small that I did, and think about it. Like one of the things I do is I go to, because I live in New York, I'm on Long Island, so I go into New York City, and I go to, they have the daytime shows there. They have Tamron Hall, they have The View, they have Drew Barrymore, and then they have some nighttime ones as well. So I go there, and purple is the color for sarcoidosis. And I wear a purple shirt, and I usually wear my purple jacket that says Sarcoidosis of Long Island, and people always ask me about it. I've had the hosts come up to me. Sunny from The View has stopped and talked to me about it, and Whoopi Goldberg, same thing. And then Tamron Hall it was actually kind of interesting. It was that her manager was Bernie Mac's manager. So she knew exactly what sarcoidosis was. So it was nice. And then even with Dr. Oz, like he worked with sarcoidosis patients when he was working as a cardiac. But I got the words out. And they would actually speak about it at some, on TV and off TV. They would talk about it. And so the way I look at it is, I got the word out there. Even if it was something, and the show was free, I got to go see a show, and I got a word at it as well. And it's funny, all those shows actually call me the Man in Purple. Because every show I go in purple. And so they all know me now. The Good Morning America, when they have and the Today Show, when they have the bands playing, during the summer showcases and stuff, summer shows, they've talked about it. Dylan from the Today Show actually did a 30-second thing. April is Sarcoidosis Awareness Month. Wear your purple. We would just happen to show up there. So, the way I look at it is every little opportunity you get, I don't push it on people. Like, I'm not like shove it down your throat type of person, but I'm wearing my purple. I wear my sarcoidosis shirt. if they ask me about it, I will definitely tell them about it. That's the way I look at it. And, I just try to do my best. I'm only one person, but the way I look at it, one person helps one life. That's all that matters.
Yeah, I mean, you're making a pretty big impact for just being one person.
Yeah,
It's
I try.
it's a job you got. Yeah, it's a job you kind of have to, especially in the rare disease world. It's a job you just kind of have to do yourself. Like you're not gonna have a company or anything. Just do it yourself, or nothing will ever be done.
Yeah, I let I've worked with organizations, and I collaborate with other organizations all the time. But when it comes to me, I do like to work alone a lot of times because I'll make a decision, split second decision. And like if you work with a big organization, you have to pass it through through all these channels and try. By that
Yeah,
time, it's done. It's passed. So I'm like, I make a decision. All right, I'm
yeah,
gonna go with it. So I like that.
yeah. That's why I have to do all this YouTube stuff alone because the only person I have to rely on is me, and
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
just I don't have the bureaucracy of everything, and it's nice to be in control of things.
Yeah.
But we're gonna segue into mind thinking. So I have here that you had to reprogram your mind in your 40s. So why did you have to reprogram your mind? Like what changed?
Well, like it all goes back to like, I was a runner, like you said, and I was very, I don't know, I guess the best, I was very organized in my thinking of, of my body, how I needed to take care of my body, and when I went from, like I said, running a marathon to I couldn't even run a quarter of a mile. That was hard. It was really hard on just on my mental sides. So I had to reprogram myself to think of, all right, what am I going to do? What do I need to do to stay focused and make sure that I'm trying to think of it. Yeah, I guess is it all goes back to I have sarcoidosis, but it doesn't have me. I wanted to make sure that I I looked at short term goals instead of long terms. Like instead of saying, "Oh, well, I can't do this, I can't do that," I say, "Well, I walked a quarter mile today. That's better than I did yesterday." Or or like I said, I was on disability. I've never not had a job before that, and it was kind of hard to sit at home by yourself doing nothing. And so I had to change my outlook on that. All right, what what can I do to keep me going as well as helping others, and then deciding, like I said, on I still have the hard part, like I said earlier, is trying to control myself on how much I take on. I'm still fighting that one. I'll probably be fighting that for the rest of my life. But I always want to make sure that that uh, everything I do, I have I had to change my mindset and stop saying yes to everything. I was doing everything. I mean, any rare disease event that was out there, I was there. I was going to California. I was going to Boston, all over the United States, and I'd come home and I was a mess. For 2 weeks after every event, I was like in bed. I'm like, is this really worth it? is it's great to be there and want to be a part of, but you could only be there
Mm-hmm.
and want to be a part of it if you're alive. And I always said I was working myself to death. And unfortunately, I had to change that thought of mine. I couldn't be that same. I owned a construction company. I couldn't be that guy. I couldn't be that guy running to the construction site and fixing things or doing things. So I had to figure out what I could do instead of what I couldn't do. And I've gotten really good with that in that respect of I know my limitations and I know my body very well. I know, like I always tell my doctors, and I'll kid around with them and say, I know my body better than you do. I know, like, if I'm feeling the pain, I
Mm-hmm.
know why I'm feeling the pain. I can almost guarantee. That's how good I know my body now. But you know, it's still very hard to. It's a work in progress, is the way I call it, because I still fight myself. You know, wanting to do more.
Yeah. Well, I think I mean I don't know, but isn't it hard to kind of know your body because your body is constantly changing? So once you get like, hey, this is my new normal, and then like I guess a year later, like you have a totally new normal that you almost don't even know.
Yeah,
You don't even know like what's
yeah.
stable.
Each day is different for me. So that's really one of the hardest things. And like I've come to the fact of telling people, like if I'm going to an event, or if I'm going to speak at an event, I tell them beforehand, I don't know how I'm going to be that day. So I don't know. I'll say yes, and I'll try to be there. And there's times where I have been there even when I shouldn't have. But now I'm to the point where I even tell anybody for a speaking engagement or anything, I just tell them, I don't know how I'm going to feel each day. So so I need you to be flexible with that in that respect. If I'm not going to be
Hmm.
able to speak, you need to take me off the speaking list or whatever. I, you know, I try my best to make to everything, but I'm not going to. I'm sick.
Hmm.
It just, it is what it is.
Well, it's hard to replace you because you're only one Frank
Yeah,
Rivera too.
yeah, exactly. And so I just don't want to, and so I always tell, like, I have an event 15th and the 16th, no, 16th and 17th in DC. I'm at a speaking event, patient centricity. And same thing, I always tell them, I'm like, I'm in right now. That's what I tell them, I'm in right now. And then
Hmm.
Rare Disease Week is 2 weeks after that. I'm in right now, but we'll see. Um, so I try, but before that, I wasn't even doing that. I would say yes, 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 and just go. And my wife would be like, "Are you kidding me? You can barely stand up. What are you going for? I'd rather see you here. I could do more." And that's one of the things. My wife has kept me grounded a lot. She's like, "How much are you going to advocate if you're not here?" She's like, "All right." So think about
Hmm.
that. I'm like, "All right."
Do you also get like an adrenaline rush when you do go to these
Oh
events?
yeah,
Because they're pretty exciting. Like
yeah.
you're surrounded by like good people and like everyone trying to help. The government kind of, I don't know. The government's a little wishy
Yeah.
washy because they like want to help, but like
But
it's
how much
also
is it
like
going
they're
to cost?
using you as a pawn and like
A lot of them is how
yeah.
much is it going to
But like
cost?
you must get yeah, but like you must get like an adrenaline rush. Maybe not. Like I understand like afterwards like you're
Yeah,
exhausted. Like you don't really understand. You don't understand the exhaustion until you go through it. But like you must feel really good for the 1 or 2 days
yeah.
of
I
you know
mean,
with
going
everyone
to the
around you.
event usually the day of, even if I'm sick, I'm still hyped up to do the event. A lot of times, I did 2 congressional briefings, so I got to actually speak in front of some representatives and some senators and their health aides, and the feeling I got from them, I, for me, I never liked being a speaker. I never liked doing this. I used to like being in the background. And, but then I realized people are listening. They're actually listening to me. And then, like at the congressional briefing, after the briefing, I had people coming up to me and asking me more about stuff, which was like, wow,
Hmm.
I guess they really were. So it does give me a rush. I'm not going to lie. It does give me a rush. Um, but
It's
like I said,
interesting.
about like it took me about 5 years to actually do my very first interview. I used to set up things like I did a rare disease day here in New York at a hospital here, and we had like 200, 300 people show up to the event. And not once did I
Whoa.
speak.
Okay.
I did not speak. I organized the whole thing, set it all up, the agenda, everything, set up all the people. I did not speak
What?
once. And everybody's like,
Wow.
yeah.
That's an accomplishment right there.
And I was like, I just don't. I'm like, I wanted it to be about them and about the speakers. And so, but then I've done 6 walks for sarcoidosis, and at my very first walk, a local news station, Channel 12 News, is a local Long Island news station here, and they came to the event. And even at that, I even told them, "Go ahead, talk to, talk to the government officials that came." And they're like, "No, we came to talk to you." I'm like, "But I really don't need." And they're like, "No," And the lady actually, I'm actually still friends with her now. She actually said to me, "It's great all of the stuff that you're doing, but she goes, as a media, we need a face to go with the disease. We
Yeah.
need to see the people that are going through this, so we can understand it better. And if we don't see your face and all we say, well, Frank did this, nobody knows who Frank is, this mystery Frank person, it won't help your organization, and it won't help your cause unless you get out there. And so that's when I started to kick up, and like I said, every time I go, I'm still nervous to do a speak. I was nervous doing this, but it's good nerves. It's actually, it keeps me going. Like I said, it gives me something to look forward to, and it's nice that people want to help and listen and want to know what's going on. And you won't know unless you try. That's the way I always talk about it now.
Yeah.
So yeah, so
Well, it's super ironic because podcasting is my job and I like talking to
yeah,
people, but I cannot go to the government and talk to them. I can't do like the small talk, the more, the elevator pitches and
yeah.
stuff. I can't do that. I'm more of a free flowing, going whatever's happening and forming a connection, and that's just not my thing. Like I know, like I have the speaking ability to do it, but I can't do that in the elevator pitch style. And like I don't know if you remember, but we were in a group like a couple of years ago of like how to talk to
Yeah.
government people,
Hmm.
and I was like, this is not for me. Like, can't like I get it, and it's a skill to have for people to talk to them and stuff. But like, I'm not a suit wearing kind of
Yeah.
person. I can't talk to government. I feel like it's a lot of bullshit
Hmm.
among the things, among people. Like you mentioned before, it's kind of like how much it's gonna cost me and stuff. And it's like, but I do get like to me, I don't think advocacy really helps in any way. Like my disease, like I don't. I guess it feels nice that someone else knows what my disease is, but I think in reality, I don't think it really helps anyone.
Hmm.
I think the people that actually go into the government and actually trying to get money for diseases, or like there was like a formula shortage, or people are paying too much and like they're helping to lower the cost. I think those are the real heroes that are helping the community, not me showing off my body in any way. Like I don't think it's great, it's entertaining, but I don't think it really helps anyone. Like I feel like you and the people that are actually going down to Congress and making the trip, and like you were saying, like, oh, you would go and then like you'd be in bed for 2 weeks. Like you're the ones that are actually making a difference instead of just me just showing off my body for likes and
The thing is that I think there's like,
entertainment.
I always tell people, you have to find your niche when it comes to advocacy, because not everybody wants to talk to government. Not everybody is going to feel comfortable. Not everybody's going to, like I said, I wasn't comfortable speaking in front of people. You know, you really
Hmm.
have to find what is best for you. They, I always tell people, anybody could be an advocate, or even from home, you could be an advocate. You could do things from home, whether it's a podcast, whether it's a webinar, or whether it's just signing up and calling, you know, the government official and say, "Hey, I'm Frank Rivera. One of your constituents, and I have sarcoidosis." Just I think that people always think that advocates are just those going to the government and just those going to the pharmaceuticals. I'm like, no, there's so many different types of advocates. There's people who just raise awareness. There's people who just, who want to go after that money. There are people who just go talking about clinical trials, um, you know, and that's great because we need all of that. I'm not gonna do. I've touched all of them, but I'm not gonna say I'm an expert in some of these things. Like clinical trials, I've gotten better at, but I wouldn't say I'm an expert. I do work with people about clinical trials, but I'm not an expert. I'll never say I was an expert. But I'm always looking to see what's going on. But yeah, I think advocacy comes in all different types, all different flavors. And then I always tell people that, like I said, you could do it from home. You could just put out a sentence, "I have sarcoidosis" on Facebook. See how many people are going to ask you what it is about. You never know. I mean, so, or or like we have a national organization, Foundation for Sarcoidosis Research, and they're always looking for people for whether it be clinical trials, signing up for clinical trials, or signing up for a registry, and you could sign up from the registry at home, and your information's already there, and that's helping. That's helping sarcoidosis. You know, we need to know the background of it. We need to know what that in sarcoidosis, African American women in the United States are the highest rate of sarcoidosis. They need to know that. They need to see why. We're never going to find out the cause or the cure if we don't know how it's affecting people. So I always say anybody can be an advocate. It's just and because I do a lot of different things, I don't consider myself any better than anybody else. I consider myself, I'm lucky enough to be able to do this. That's the way I look at it. I'm lucky enough to be able to do this.
Well, it's clear that you have sarcoidosis, but it doesn't have you. So a lot of questions I'm gonna ask is, so you have a book called "I Have Sarcoidosis," but it doesn't have me. So let's pretend I am sarcoidosis. What would you say to me?
My best, I always say, you know what, you could do whatever you want to my body, as long as I have my mind and I have my drive. You're not going to win. I may die because of sarcoidosis, but sarcoidosis is never going to win. It's never going to win over my body. I mean, it goes back to the 2018. I was told I had 6 months to live. The first thing I told the doctors when they told me that is, I was like, I don't have a toe tag on me. I don't have an expiration date on me. So you could say whatever you want. And the 1 year anniversary, the first thing I did is call my doctor. Hey, guess what? I'm still here a year later. So no matter what happens with sarcoidosis, it never won, because it never broke me. One thing I would like to say, one of the last things I'd like to say is my specialist said this to me, and it kind of one of the very first days I met my sarcoidosis specialist. And I mean, he's a doctor, and he said to me, fighting this disease or any diseases is 90% mental and 10% physical. And I was like, I didn't understand that in the beginning. And when he said that to me, he goes, here's the reason. I could give you every drug that is known for sarcoidosis. If you don't want to fight, he goes, you're wasting my time, you're wasting your own time, and you're wasting the medicines, because the medicines are not going to work unless you want to fight. So that's how I attack sarcoidosis. I attack sarcoidosis. It doesn't attack me anymore. I could say back in the day it probably felt like it was attacking me and I wasn't attacked, but I feel like I can attack sarcoidosis just as much as it can attack me. You take me down because my bones hurt, well, guess what? I'm going to work on the computer and do this. Or some days I get bad headaches because I have it neurologically. And you know what? So I do other things. I'm not going to let sarcoidosis win, ever. And that's, I even tell my wife, I'm like, on my grave, you could put, sarcoidosis didn't win, I did. And that's what I always say. So I'm never going to give in, never going to say, sarcoidosis, take ahead, you have free run, whatever you want to do.
Yes, so before I take the mic away from you, is there anything you want to say, promote any words of wisdom, the winning lottery numbers? The mic is all yours.
Well, yeah, like I said, I talked about mental health and male mental health. We're actually doing on the 22nd, we're doing a male mental health for rare disease patients and caregivers, because we forget about caregivers a lot of times. And we're doing a webinar. I'm speaking at that, but I've been working with this gentleman, Dave Ross, who I do a lot of male mental health work with. And I want people to, especially men, to know that, you're not alone. So, yeah, so I just want people to, and all rare disease, all chronic illnesses, everything. It doesn't have to be male, female, kid, child, adults. Just remember you're not alone. There is always somebody out there that is trying to help. Don't be afraid to ask people for help, because I always say I never would have gotten as far as I am without the help of family, friends, my therapist, the people around me make me who I am. And without it, I wouldn't be where I am. So don't be afraid to ask for help.
Okay, thank you, Frank.